Hello, hi, welcome. My name is Mel. Thank you so much for being here. In 2023, I rediscovered my love of reading, and now I'm trying to figure out what my book taste really is. Now, I grew up in the Twilight, Hunger Games, dystopian fantasy, angel, demon age group, and so I still read a little bit of fantasy and a little bit of romance, but what genres do I really like? So to put this to the test, I want to read the most iconic books of every genre. Not necessarily the ones that have sold the most, though they may have sold the most. Not necessarily the most critically regarded, but the books where I say fantasy and I say science fiction, you say... I don't know. So if you enjoy this may become a series, but for today, we're going to do romance, which is a genre I'm well versed in, science fiction, a genre I don't think I've ever read from before, and mystery, which is a genre that I definitely should enjoy. Now, obviously, there's going to be some inherent level of bias in what I choose because it's what I consider iconic based on who I've talked to and the research that I've done. But if you disagree with what I've chosen, let me know and we could do a series where I read your iconic books from every genre. Let's not dilly-dally. The first thing we're going to read is romance. Now, romance, at first I thought, well, it's got to be Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice. It's the OG. I guess nowadays I put that more in the classics bucket. So I decided against that. But what I am going to go with is The Notebook by Nicholas Sparks. Now, full disclosure, I've never seen the movie. I have no previous attachment to this story or any of these characters, so I'm going in completely blind. What I do know is that Nicholas Sparks had a chokehold on the romance girlies of the 90s and the 2000s. And because of the movie, I think this is probably his most iconic book. But let me know what you think. What was that? What was that? I don't want to yuck your yum, if this is what gets you going. But this was not good. This is not a good book, in my opinion. I'm confused. Maybe the movie is really good. Maybe I need to watch the movie, because this book follows Noah, who lives in North Carolina. He's restoring his plantation home and reminiscing on his time with this girl that he loved like 15 years ago or something. Then she shows up, they rekindle, and it kind of goes on from there. I was told it would make me weep like a baby. I think my eyes actually drier after reading it. Okay, let me tell you my issues that I had with this. I would consider myself someone who is disgustingly in love, if you will. Someone who is no stranger to telling my friends, my family, my husband how much I love them, who is very outward with my affection for people. I'm extremely sappy, but like, get Winnie the Pooh on the case, because this was too sappy, even for me. At the core of a romance book, you have to believe that these two characters belong together. You have to be rooting for them to get together, or, you know, love them so much that when they are together, you just love seeing all these different scenes with them. But like, there was so much telling and not a lot of showing that actually happened in this book. It's like they like went to the fair one time 15 years ago, and we're supposed to believe that this is the foundation for why she, what's her name? Allie. This is the foundation of why Allie absolutely blows up her life to go and be with this person who supposedly she's never loved anyone like that at all. But like, we get maybe a scene of a flashback of them at that time, but there's no reason that we're given as to why these two people connect in any way, shape, or form. Like, the whole book is them just basically saying, I've never loved anyone like you. I've always thought of you since then. It's like, yeah, but why? I just didn't feel the chemistry between these characters at all. I also thought that was just way too much scene setting. Like, I get it. We're in the South. We're in North Carolina. Like, it just didn't feel like it served any purpose. It didn't set any sort of particularly interesting atmosphere. It was just, okay, we get it. You don't need to describe the curtains in every room that we're going into. The dialogue was so awkward and uninspired. And again, like, it just, there was no chemistry between these characters at all. You know, and not only did I not feel the chemistry between these characters, but the characters themselves are so bland and boring. Like, tell me one interesting feature about either of them. Also, the things that we're told about them aren't shown in the actions that they take. Like, the girl, what's her name? Allie. Like, we're told that she's this strong woman who always speaks her mind, but she's an absolute doormat when it comes to anything, particularly with Noah, even though Noah's really nice. And tell me why she stood in front of the mirror and admired her breasts. Please. I didn't think that was real. I thought that was a meme. Also, my library only had the audiobook version of this, and it did not help with the sap factor. It was swelling piano at the beginning of every romantic scene. And, okay, now it's gone away. Like, oh, they're about to say something dramatic, some more swelling piano. It's like, oh my goodness. Again, I'm a sappy bitch. Like, I think I can handle sap in romance books a lot better than most people, but this was simply too much for me. And I suppose this is a spoiler, so if you've never seen the movie or read the book, I'll put a little spoiler banner right now. Are you leaving? Pausing? Okay, good, great. This whole premise hinges on the fact that he's retelling this love story to his wife who has Alzheimer's and flashing back and forth between now and then. And I guess that is where the tugging on the heartstrings comes from. And I think that could be very interesting and a very sweet way to tell the story. You're telling me the setup to this story is she's engaged to someone else, cheats on him with this man, and we're supposed to root for them as a couple? Like, maybe we're getting too far into my personal preferences now, because cheating is an instant no from me in any kind of romance story. They didn't even set her ex-fiance up as like, oh, he's abusive and she's running away. Like, yeah, it was a bit dull, but that doesn't mean he deserved to be cheated on and left for this guy that she knew 15 years ago. I don't know. If you love this book, I love that for you, but it absolutely was not for me, and I gave it 2 stars. I'm so sorry. I should have read Pride and Prejudice. Our next category is mystery. And this should be right up my alley because I was obsessed with Scooby-Doo as a child. This is my Scooby that I've had since I was 8 years old, so he's going to join us for the review of this portion. I've also been really loving the Glass Onion and Knives Out movies and this kind of revival of the traditional whodunit. So I'm really keen to get back into this genre. Now, for mystery, there was really only one author that it could be, and that's Agatha Christie. Now, according to my research, she's the highest selling author other than Shakespeare and the Bible. She's written 66 detective novels and 14 short stories. Now, if you ask me to name something by her, I would say Murder on the Orient Express or Death on the Nile, but I do actually know the plot twists in both of those. So because of that, I read one of the top-selling books of all time with over 100 million copies sold, and that is And Then There Were None. I enjoyed this so much. Mystery really needs to make it into my regular rotation. It's so obvious the influence that this book and Agatha Christie has had on mystery as a genre. This book is about a collection of strangers who are summoned to this remote island by this eccentric millionaire, but when they get there, he's nowhere to be seen. And all they have is this rhyme, which you find out over the book is foreshadowing their deaths. And so one by one, we're revealing all these characters' past, and one by one, all these characters are starting to get killed off. And it's hilarious of me to say, but it reminded me a lot of Glass Onion, and Glass Onion clearly took so many of its cues from this novel. I thought the scene setting was excellent. Not only did it give you this really clear picture in your head, but it really set this eerie, tense tone for the whole story. You know, she knows how to build tension, she knows how to make it a page turner. You really just are trying to figure it out as you go. I never actually did figure out the mystery, but I think you could if you were looking hard enough. My main criticism was there were so many characters, and in the beginning it's flipping between the POVs so much. I kind of struggled to keep track of who we were talking about at what given time, and he was the general, but no, not the general, the police guy. So it did take me a while into the story until I felt like I had a good grasp on who was who and who their personalities were. And I think the writing was such that it was told in a way that you felt a bit removed from the characters. Like, everything was very matter-of-fact and not overly flowery or beautiful or anything like that. But that didn't really dampen my enjoyment of it at all. I think it's a really layered mystery, so that, you know, as layers get revealed and you figure out this little part, it unlocks this other bit, which then makes sense, which then connects to that, and it's what I love about mysteries. I was a bit worried because, you know, Agatha Christie was writing between the 20s and the 70s, and so I wasn't sure if there would be anything in there that sort of, you know, wouldn't fly these days. And you know, there is a bit of misogyny and whatnot in there, nothing too egregious, but from what I did read in the original published version, the version of the poem that's in there is, but I read a more modern translation, obviously, and so I didn't find it too egregious. Overall, you know, I thought it would be good for me to bring this underground author onto your radar, but If you like mystery, you'll love this book. If you recently got into the Knives Out, Glass Onion movies, you'll absolutely eat this up. So I've given it 4 stars. Last but certainly not least is science fiction. Now, as I said, I don't think I've ever read a science fiction book as an adult. I love science fiction movies. I work in the science field. I like fantasy. I like dystopian. I feel like I got all the ingredients that I need to enjoy science fiction. And when choosing a book as the most iconic science fiction book, there was really only one that came up again and again. This author is hailed as the father of modern science fiction. This book inspired Star Wars, and that book is, of course, Dune. Let me tell you, I have not shut up about this book since I finished reading it. I am obsessed with it. I love it so much. This book is about the planet Arrakis, which has the universe's most valuable resource, which is spice. Now we follow the family or house of Atreides, who are taking over control of this planet from the House of Harkonnen, which has had control of it for the previous period of time. But the takeover is not all that it seems, and there's some funny business happening between the Harkonnens and the Emperor, and the Atreides aren't just having a straight handover that they thought they were. The hero of the story is the son of the House of Atreides, Paul. Now, it is funny, everyone has these very sci-fi fantasy names, and then it's just like, Paul. Yeah, Paul. But Arrakis is a desert planet, which is, to most people, inhospitable. If it weren't for the spice, the non-locals would have no interest in being there. But the spice does exist, and it is the single most valuable resource in the universe. It powers their ships. It has these psychotropic properties when you ingest it that give you these clairvoyant type abilities that are really important for the story later on. And then there's this whole religious undertone of the Bene Gesserit, who are this religious political sisterhood group who have been manipulating bloodlines throughout history to manufacture this all-powerful chosen one. And so part of the initial questions in the start of the book is Paul the chosen one, the son of the Atreides? Is he the chosen one? But Paul is resistant to this. He doesn't want to be the chosen one. He has these visions of the future that he doesn't want to be a part of. And so this book explores power, colonialism, religion. It's so layered and detailed and well thought out. I was blown away when I finished this story. I could not get enough of it. I would say the first 100, 200 pages are very info dumpy, and I was like, oh no, if the whole thing's going to be like this, it's not going to be a good time. But looking back, I don't think it could have been any other way. I don't know, it reads like literary science fiction, if that's even a thing. I love the way it's constructed. It just builds and builds and builds and drops little motifs that are continuously referenced throughout the novel until it reaches its big crescendo, which is just the perfect culmination of all the themes and all the things that we've been working towards until this point. And, it's very clear this is the first book in a series and there is more to come, but I just thought it was so incredibly crafted, and all I wanted to do after it was watch all these video essays on Dune and dissect it with different people, and I had such an incredible time with it. 6 out of 5 stars. I loved it so much. I don't usually love books about war, really, but the world was so layered and real that I was really invested in all these people and all these characters. And it wasn't exactly, a book about military strategy. So I thought the technology in it was really well thought out and really well described, so you could picture it, and it really made sense as to why things were that way and how that affected, the fighting style, or how it affected the way that people go about their day. So I cannot recommend this enough. I can't believe this was written in the 60s. It feels like a modern commentary on human impact on ecologies and First Nations people, and how religion and extremism can be used, to benefit a certain cause. I cannot recommend this enough. Again, underground author Frank Herbert, if you haven't heard of him, give this a read. If you have any other recommendations for science fiction with heavy themes that aren't too tactical on war, please let me know, because I absolutely adored this and I'll be continuing with the series for sure. Well, that is all, friends. Thank you so much for making it this far. Now, I realize this experiment is inherently flawed, because if we took the results of this, we would say that I hate romance, when in reality, I know that's not true, and I've just read a book that I didn't necessarily connect with. But I think it was a good baseline to see some iconic books from these genres. I know Agatha Christie and Frank Herbert have been hugely influential in their respective spaces, and I can definitely see that after reading their novels, and even thinking about, movies and games that have been made in those particular genres. But let me know what you think. I still have lots of genres to go. We could do fantasy, thrillers, horrors, westerns, historical fiction. Let me know what I should do next, and I'll see you next time.